Our lives, our actions, our interactions are always evolving. If you lived in Manhattan in the mid-1800s, you might have gone for a rural stroll up 2nd Avenue. If you lived in Manhattan around the turn of the 20th century, you might have gone downtown for clams. If you lived in Manhattan in the early years of the 21st century, as I did, you might have spent an evening at the iconic East Village dive, Mars Bar. Let's turn to Google Maps to see how our lives have continued to evolve since then. Here's Mars Bar in 2009. Here it is in 2011 with a sign that says, "Thanks for the memories." So something must be up. And here we go. If you live in Manhattan in 2021, you might be spending your evening at TD Bank. When a senior TD Bank executive was asked about these changes, he said they were a function of the free market and made it clear that if anyone were to blame, it would be the consumers. Compared to the rest of the nation, he said, New Yorkers are obsessed with branch convenience. Let's think about the points being made here. First, is New York City real estate a free market? No, it isn't. There are big real estate developers with market power and lobbying power, and there are complex regulations. Second, did consumer demand for ATMs emerge in a vacuum? This is highly doubtful. It's likely that smart marketing by banks created some of this demand. Third, even if we lived in a truly free market, does that mean its outcomes are socially desirable? Sometimes, but not necessarily. My goal is to teach you to enjoy economics as an investigative social science, not as a foregone conclusion. To cross-examine claims like we just did, and to think about the world around us and what could be done to make it better. The best part is that economics can be done anywhere. So let's go for a walk. Okay, that was a bad idea. Let me wrap up my introduction indoors. Economics is a method of analyzing individual choice and social interaction. The trouble is that the social world is very, very complex. Humans are varied and whimsical creatures. So how do we analyze them? We assume just two things about the world. First, there is scarcity. This is the idea that we cannot have it all. We have limited resources like time, energy, and raw materials. So we must think carefully about how to allocate these resources. Second, incentives. This means that we allocate our scarce resources in the best possible way. That's it. Our goal is now to use these two concepts, scarcity and incentives, to study life around us. You will see that the answers are tricky and sometimes unexpected, and economists will continue to disagree even though they generally start out with the same premise. Obviously, it takes years to master this craft, but we can start to ask the questions right away. Let's head back out. Walking around my neighborhood, even before the COVID pandemic, you would have noticed that New York was becoming a city of shuttered storefronts. Why do so many businesses fail? The answer in large part must lie in rental prices. But where do these prices come from? And why do they not adjust so that storefronts get repopulated? If this is due to government policy, what are the incentives of policymakers to keep things this way? Sometimes you also see new businesses opening in unexpected ways. Recently, a new Trader Joe's opened up near my apartment. No, that's not the unexpected part. What's interesting is that in response, a fruit and vegetable seller had the incentive to set up right in front of it. The pandemic has also seen an explosion of sidewalk street markets. In what ways might poor New Yorkers' incentives have changed, such that they would withstand the discomforts and risks associated with operating informal, low-margin businesses outdoors? Why do certain types of consumers eat out during a pandemic while others stay home? Is it that some people are more willing to take risks, or that they don't think COVID is all that dangerous, or that they simply cannot stand their own cooking? Also, is 8 a.m. too early for me to have a Big Mac? Economics can and should also help us think about things that might have nothing to do with the economy. For example, should statues of certain historical figures be taken down? This is not a question to be scoffed at. Who is hurt by the statues? Who would be hurt by their removal? How should society weigh opposing viewpoints in light of historical injustices? What are the intended and unintended consequences of any such actions? Finally, we should remember that individuals' interests are not just selfish interests. On the one hand, people do seem incentivized to behave selfishly when no one is watching, for example by throwing trash on the street. In this case, this poor bicycle has not only lost its wheel, its basket is being used as a trash can. But for every such example, we are surrounded by pro-social behaviors. People throw trash in the right place even when they aren't forced to. And they feed birds. Again, we must be open to the possibility of unexpected consequences. Sometimes, even selfish behaviors can result in socially desirable outcomes. Just like one person's sidewalk garbage can feed some hungry birds on this very cold morning. But at other times, we are not pro-social enough. This clock in Union Square estimates the number of years we have left to fight climate change before disaster strikes. How should we incentivize people to change their habits? How should the costs of environmental protection be divided between current and future generations, between the rich and the poor? These are some of the big questions that you might end up working on in the coming years.